YouTube? Above Average Cody coming at you with our first Black Ops 6 video. And of course, you guys know me. We got to dive into some controller settings. And there is a ton, I'm talking a ton of different controller settings here, guys. And today I'm going to go through all of my settings for you that I've been enjoying so far on the game, and hopefully explain some of it along the way so that you guys can find the best controller settings for you. Now, starting off here on the main controller screen, obviously, guys, if you don't know how to navigate the UI at this point, you have all of these little settings in this little drop-down menu here, and you can actually select some specific settings to kind of tag to the quick settings. So if you like to change your sensitivity back and forth, or you like to change anything, you can put it in the quick settings so that you're not always scrolling through the main menu. Because again, we're going to be covering controller settings today, guys, and there are literally 4 entire tabs. So if you have, you know, your slide or dive behavior that you want to change all the time, you can put it in quick settings just to make things a little bit easier. But starting off here, guys, on the main screen, I play a default button layout: A to jump, B to slide, right trigger to shoot, nothing too crazy. I play 4 paddles. I put the ABXY on my back paddles so that I don't have to take my right finger off the aim stick. This is going to be just strictly personal preference, whatever you're used to. If you're newer to Call of Duty, I recommended the default layout because it's pretty easy to learn, pretty easy to get used to. Now, sensitivity, guys, again, personal preference, whatever you're comfortable with. I run 5.5. I've seen some players like to run their horizontal actually a little bit higher on Call of Duty because you're going to want those faster movements for the left to right as opposed to the up and down, but I prefer to keep them the same. I'll bounce between 5 and 6. I definitely recommend having a sensitivity high enough where you can still turn on enemies when they start shooting you, but slow enough where you can still control your aim, because being precise is still a very important part of this Call of Duty, especially if you're doing a camo grind like I am, aiming for headshots and things like that. Now, the Simplified Controls preset, guys, this is very new to Black Ops 6, and this is basically things that make the game more simplified, meaning less button presses, more automatic things like mantle assist, and it's just more recommended for beginner players. I personally don't recommend it or use it or anything of that matter. I personally think you should just learn all the controls as it is, but it can be a little overwhelming if a game like Black Ops 6 is your first Call of Duty or FPS in general. But if you guys like, I'll do another video on that one down the road. Low motor strain preset off, bumper ping I have off, and then I don't swap my bumpers or my triggers, so that is also off. Controller vibration, guys, I recommend having it off. I know some players like to have it on because it's like, it's just one of those things that kind of immerses you a little bit deeper into the game, but it's annoying to me. It throws me off, and let's be real, again, your aim is precise. You do not want your controller literally shaking while you're trying to aim. And now, guys, dead zone inputs, and these are for your left stick and your right stick, guys. So the dead zone of a thumbstick, guys, is the zone where a stick is not registering movement. Smaller dead zone, the little tiniest movement of the stick is going to register. Bigger dead zone, the stick's going to have some room to move where it's not being picked up. So your left stick minimum, this is your center dead zone. So the very center of the stick where the joystick is resting is your dead zone. So you can see here, if I raise this value, that center area gets bigger. You want this as low as possible without any drift, guys. Stick drift refers to when it is moving without you literally touching it. It's just moving on its own, basically. And again, if you can go to 0 and you put your controller down, your character's not moving, just leave it on 0. This is because the moment you touch that thumbstick, you want it to react, guys. And the same goes for the right stick. You want this stick to be very reactive. I have this on 1 just because 0 had a little bit of drift, but again, go as low as possible because you want the stick to react immediately. Now, the max, this covers pretty much this is the max input threshold, is I believe what Halo Infinite calls it, and this is how far you have to move the stick before it registers the maximum input, right? So this little red line, right, this is where basically the stick is completely pinned. So if I go all the way up and make it bigger, I have the entire area of the stick to work with. It's not going to measure the maximum input until I get to the end. But if I make this smaller, it's going to register the maximum input a little bit faster. So strafing and just moving in general, you can hit that max speed faster with your left stick, which is why I put it at 50. I just feel like in the middle is a little bit more comfortable, so I have a little bit of wiggle room as opposed to going all the way down, so it's always registering max movement, because at some points I do want to move a little bit slower. Now, the right stick, I have the opposite philosophy. Sometimes I want to make big aim movements, swapping to enemies. Sometimes I want to make very small, precise aim movements. Therefore, I want more variation in from the stick registering a small movement to registering the max movement. It's a much more precise stick since you're aiming with it, so you want a bigger variation, so you don't want that max input registered unless you have the stick pinned all the way one way or the other. So opposite philosophy on these two. Movement, not as touchy, heavier movements. You want to hit that higher value faster, and the opposite for the aim stick. You want to be able to use the entire stick and have a higher variation. Your trigger stops, guys, or your trigger dead zones, I should say, you want them to react as quickly as possible. The moment you touch that trigger, you want it to be shooting. So you don't want a dead zone at the top of your triggers, because that's, again, it's an area where the trigger's not going to register. Just put these down to 0 and you will be all set to go. You can even just try these values if you want, guys. The only ones you'll really have to change are your left stick and right stick minimum, if you have any drift and your cursor's starting to move when you're not touching the controller. Now, on to aiming. Pretty easy here, guys. Sensitivity multiplier, I leave all of these default on 1. It's all muscle memory. If you've been playing COD for a million years and you have never changed a single one of these settings, just leave them, because this is kind of how you get just comfortable with things. But if you want something a little bit different, like ground vehicles a little bit higher or your third person a little bit higher, you can adjust it here. Look conversion on foot, just standard. And then target aim assist, obviously you want that on. Motion sensor behavior, I have this off, guys. On to movement. Sprint assist. This is probably the most important one that I want to talk about, and I run tactical sprint assist, guys. And that is forward movement input will activate tactical sprint after the sprint assist delay time. Sideways and backwards movement will activate sprint after the sprint assist delay time. So this is so that I don't have to mash in my left stick every time I want to tack sprint. It will just automatically tack sprint. I have the delay at 0, and then I have it on for sideways and backwards. So I am just always moving faster, because if any of y'all remember playing Warzone during Modern Warfare 2019, controllers, man, just mashing that left stick. Your left thumb gets tired. Your control freak, if you run them like me, wears out faster. This makes it so much easier, a lot less button presses, and you can move around so much faster on the map. You kind of just have to press it in that one time if you want to get up from like prone or something like that. But this feels so much better for me, and especially if I run the sprint assist delay on 0, because if you have a bit of a delay, it won't activate as long, and then it'll feel like you're just kind of slow and sluggish, and you'll be having trouble like sliding and things like that. So tack sprint assist, if you want to save yourself mashing in the left stick, and then sprint assist delay so that there's not a short time between it. Mantle assist off. I do not want to be mantling when I do not want to be mantling, guys, and you can do this for different directions and things like that. Crouch assist also off. And then the corner slice, guys, this is the automatic lean you get when you're peeking around a corner. I think it's pretty cool. It's personal preference. I don't think it provides a big advantage in terms of how much your character model shows around the corner, but I just put it on because I kind of like the lean and kind of seeing what's coming as I'm walking around the corner. Now, slide and dive behavior, guys, I have tap to slide. It makes it much, much easier to move around, and that's how it's always been. And then the slide to dive activation delay, I have this on medium. I've actually been playing with this setting, and this is basically the time it takes where you're holding down the button. Because, again, if you're tapping, you're sliding. If you're holding it, you're diving, and this kind of sets how long you have to hold that button down for it to decipher whether you want to dive or not, and I have it on medium to kind of in the middle there. I was going to try short, but I didn't want to push the envelope a little bit too bit and be diving everywhere, but medium's been feeling pretty good, so I'm probably going to leave it there. Auto door peak, I leave this off. Automatic airborne mantle, it's just on by default. I haven't had to, it doesn't really affect my gameplay. Sprint restore on. Slide maintain sprint on. Absolutely keep this so you continue to sprint after you finish any slides. Parachute automatic, it's free fall. I just have, again, default. Mantle cancels reload. This is an important one. Turn it off. You do not want your reload canceled, especially if you're about to take another gunfight. And then just more advanced settings down here, y'all. On to combat. ADS site behavior. Hold. I'm always running hold. On every single game I run hold. Less button presses. Toggle gets kind of confusing, especially if you're not used to it, because, and again, it's just more button presses. Weapon mount activation, I actually turn this off, but for those of you that like to weapon mount, I personally do ADS and melee. I believe that was the default way back when they added it, and that's just how I got used to doing it. So that's what I would run, but personally, I think mounting's kind of cheesy sometimes. I might turn it on for some of the camo grinding like the LMGs, but for now, I just have it off. Dedicated weapon melee, hold melee. Armor plate apply all, C4 detonation all at once, equipment behavior hold, manual fire behavior press, and then scoreboard toggle and things like that, guys. And that's all of the main stuff. Now, I kind of went through all of the extra stuff, but just to briefly summarize here, if you want to favorite anything, guys, it's probably going to be the sensitivity. You want to focus on that tactical sprint assist, and make sure you adjust the delay to 0. You do not want a delay. You'll be running like you're in literal quicksand, guys. And then finally, mantle cancels reload. I believe this is on by default, and it's something that you could probably learn to live with, but trust me, it's just better if you turn it off, guys. And that's pretty much all of the main controller settings that I wanted to cover. Again, by no means are my settings the best settings, but hopefully this kind of puts you guys on the path to find the best settings for you. And again, guys, I run a Scuff Instinct Pro. I use all 4 paddles actively, A, B, X, Y on the right side, or A, B on the right side, and then X, Y on the left side, and everything of the sort, guys. And then for FOV, I do run 100. For some reason, whenever I do a controller settings video, people are always asking what the FOV is. So I do run that at 100. I just want to strictly focus controllers because that's been a bread and butter for such a long time on the channel. So hopefully this one helped you out, guys. Please subscribe. We're on the BO6 grind. We're currently streaming the camo grind. I'm uploading this at like 3 a.m. so I can get some sleep and get back to it tomorrow. So with that sub button, guys, leave a like on the video, leave a comment, share some thoughts on your controller settings, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask them below. And then finally, channel memberships and super thanks if you'd like to support monetarily. It helps me out a lot as a content creator, but please don't feel like you have to. But alrighty, guys, made this a little longer than I want to, but I want to be very thorough for all you guys getting out there in Black Ops 6. So, guys, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay tuned for the next video.